Hey, good evening, historians. I hope your project is coming along swimmingly for you. We have just a few days left and we have to submit this thing. Um, I decided to go with a multimedia presentation because I'm a glutton for punishment. Now, I did decide to do my presentation. I had a couple of different ideas floating around when we were starting the process in the beginning, and one I settled on. I think just really spoke to me a lot, and being from the South and um, getting the opportunity to kind of go and visit some of the places that I feature in my film, my presentation. Uh, I'm doing mine on the Christianity of the slaves, and I'm trying to make the connection with this presentation that, and with my research, of course, that it was the faith of the slaves, their Christianity, that ultimately led to their freedom and their emancipation. And I look at the course of Christianity amongst the slaves from the 1500s and into uh, into Reconstruction, really, and through the Civil War into Reconstruction, and also not just the course of Christianity amongst the slaves, but also the course of Christianity in the Americas, because that, I think, is what played the most vital role, much like the Great Awakening did for the American Revolution. I believe it was the Christianity and how it was used instructionally for the slaves, religious instruction and things like that, um, to make the connection between the slaves and those who had the power and responsibility to liberate the slaves, and that connection was made, I believe, throughout the course of the history of slavery. Um, Several sources that I consulted here. Mostly, I did a lot of primary source research. There's this nice little nifty thing that I didn't know existed. In the 1930s, one of FDR's New Deal programs, the WPA, uh, they interviewed a number of living slaves that were still alive. Now, this was, what, 70, 65 years after the end of the Civil War and the dissolution of slavery as an institution. But a lot of these people who were interviewed were either they were kids during the time of slavery, right at the tail end of slavery, and they were into their 80s and 90s, and they were talking about it. And just what a rich resource to pull from. Um, so that was definitely something that I just have spent countless hours kind of going through and scouring and stuff. And also wanted to make a point in the presentation about the power of the spirituals, the Negro spirituals, and how they were used. They weren't just used for spiritual reasons, but they also had another purpose, a purpose that helped, kind of like a roadmap of song, um, on the Underground Railroad. And I visit one of the key spots on the Underground Railroad in the documentary, in the multimedia presentation, in Savannah, Georgia, the First African Baptist Church there. Quite an interesting place. They actually had built into the floor, because slaves built the church itself. They had built into the floor places where the slaves could hide, during cover of, and then they would leave during cover of night and board ships and head north. But that's my presentation, and I really need to get back to it because I've got a lot to do. So thanks for listening. I hope you guys have a great bit of time working on your presentation. I can't wait to see them. Godspeed.